Well, so one other thing that I wanted to ask about while we're talking about kind of like, well, I don't know if price target is really the word, but so in the middle of December, you tweeted that Bitcoin was at the point where the BTC top cap model starts curving upward. And you
Mhm.
said that at that trajectory, the ridiculously low target was $100,000. So why don't you first explain what the BTC top cap model is, but then also, explain how you get to that 100,000 or if it's changed since you tweeted it.
Oh yeah, it's constantly changing. So essentially, the top cap model is a model that uses the theory of mean reversion. And in simple language, what that means is that it's a theory that a price of an asset always reverts to the long-term average of the entire history of the data set. So essentially, if you're a trader, mean reversion is simple as trading on a moving average. 128 moving average tends to be a support level of Bitcoin. And whenever it hits that, it bounces. 200-day moving average is sort of when we cross that tells us we're in a bull phase. And when it gets too high above the 200-day moving average, people might say it's overheated. And I think Trace Mayer is well known to create the Mayer multiple, which measures how far we're above that 200-day moving average, as a sign as overvalued, undervalued. So that's day-to-day mean reversion playing out. And so I built a model a while back which uses the same basics of averaging. And so if you do an average of the price and it's a cumulative average of Bitcoin's entire price history. So it's not like a 200-day moving average, it's a forever moving average from the day Bitcoin floated on the first day of trade to today. And that window of averaging continues to average out. And you use that metric. You can use that to find all the tops. You can multiply that by 35. It's just a magic number. And it's hit every single historic top in the history of Bitcoin. Don't ask me why. I do think maybe it's because Bitcoin is a machine. It's very mechanical. There's set halvening, there's set supply. The demand is relatively constant through the 12 years. And so that creates a top, and the current top price today is $94,000. And when you plot this sort of arc as it starts to curve and wiggle through time, you always see in the bull market starts arcing upwards, and you can take an estimate of the trajectory it's arcing. We don't know how it'll trade through the next 12 months, but you can gauge it from historical sort of movements of Bitcoin price and make a guess of where the arc's going. If we don't arc upwards, and we assume the top of the bull market is around December this year, which it's a fair estimate because all the bull market tops of the last two cycles has been around the December, just before tax season. We're going to go above 100,000 even if it doesn't arc upwards. If we arc upwards, and we're up to 200,000 to 300,000 conservatively, I mean, given the size of this rally, it's gonna push it higher. So
Wait, 200 to 300K over what time period?
Over the next by December this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like Plan B's very well known for his stock to flow ratio.
Yeah, he's a Twitter anonymous Bitcoin researcher or analyst.
Yes, that's right. So he's very famous for this stock to flow model of predicting price, and he's got many models. I think the highest one of that is it 250,000? And right now the trajectory is on track with the top cap model. It'll be an interesting one because the top cap was hit in 2013 in that double pump bull run. And the first rally hit the top cap and it retraced, and then it consolidated and it went up again against that ceiling, which obviously was a lot higher by the second pump. Right now, if we're going to do a double pump, it's $95,000 right now. If we hit that ceiling, maybe we're halfway there with in terms of price, 42,000. We're getting pretty close to a halfway point.
Yeah.
And it's moving very, very fast. I mean,
oh yeah.
End of January, we're going to be a Bitcoin's going to be a $1 trillion. It's on track to be exceeding $1 trillion by I think that's a $55,000 mark. We're on track to breaking that. We're very quickly, and that's a very interesting mark in the sand. Because, all of our major asset buckets, whether it's gold, whether it's stock, whether it's real estate, they're all measured in $1 trillion buckets, and Bitcoin's always been like a little toy, being sub $1 trillion. So it's a significant event, I think. Yeah.
All right. So in a moment, we're going to talk about other significant events in Bitcoin. But first, a quick word from the sponsors who make this show possible. So speaking of significant events, one thing that was so curious to me is throughout this whole discussion, we have not mentioned once the pandemic. And I just wondered if for you, you see any effect from that in the Bitcoin price, or if it's actually really not that relevant.
Yeah, the pandemic was very relevant to Bitcoin's price. On the outset, as everyone who follows the price closely will note, a week prior to as this pandemic was starting to roll out across the world, we had price of Bitcoin, it had reached just over $10,000, and it started to pull back over the successive couple of weeks. And then this whole, we call it a white swan, we say this is an unpredictable event that wasn't in any of the risk models. That's a black swan, but because the pandemic is actually, there's a history of roughly every 100 years there's a pandemic. There is some data, so we call it a white swan, but it caught most of the world by surprise, and the price actually caved down to the 4,000 range instantly, and that's what we call a flight to safety. Everyone reassesses their risk models, so they get out of every single position. There's absolute panic selling,